So there's a surprise ending to the Good Samaritan story. Even if you've read it 100 times, I want you to think about it with me for a moment. Um, that story was told, Jesus told that story in response to the man who asked him, okay, yeah, I know I'm supposed to love my neighbor, but who's my neighbor? And he already knew who his neighbor was. He knew his neighbor was people just like him, people that he hung out with at the pub, people that he went to synagogue with. They were his neighbors. And so Jesus tells a story about the Samaritan. The Samaritan, of course, is a man who was despised. He was an outcast. He was a political outcast. He was a religious outcast. He was an ethnic outcast for all those reasons. And he ends up being the one who sees the wounded man beside the road. He is the one. It wasn't the priest. It wasn't the Levite. It wasn't the people whose job it was to see and take care of those in need. But he saw them. So, do you know, have you seen already that our writing can help us be like that Samaritan? It can open our eyes to see people around us, to see that we were not the only ones lying wounded beside the road. Remember, I asked you to lift your head and look across the road, and you'll see that person who disappointed you, that person who offended you. They're lying there too, wounded, hurt. The surprise ending comes at the end, surprise, when Jesus asks, so who was the neighbor? Who was the neighbor? Was it the priest? Was it the guys who just walked right on by without seeing the hurt man? And the man who first asked that question, do you know what he answered? He answered. So Jesus asks, so who was the neighbor? He answered, instead of answering the Samaritan, which is what he would have answered at first, the Samaritan, that word, that name, that label, that called up all that negativity, all the conflict and tension between him as a Jewish man and this Samaritan man. He didn't call him that. He didn't call him the Samaritan. Who, Jesus said, who's my neighbor? He said, the man said, the one who had mercy. The one who had mercy was his neighbor. His name was changed. That label was removed. That Samaritan man was no longer an enemy, no longer an outcast. He was the one who had mercy. And do you know what? Our writing can do that as well. Help us remove labels. Help us take the pieces and fragments and shards of this world and put them back together. That's what happened for me and my father. It's happened for many others as they have used the power of words to write themselves into larger truths, into healing truths, back into some relationships. Doesn't happen for everyone, and some people are too dangerous to be reconciled with. But others, that's the work that we're doing. We're healing the world. My perfect world is here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it again. It tends to roll away. Here it is again. I know in reality there's still going to be cracks and fragments. There's still cracks and fragments in my life, but I tell you what, one crack that is gone is the crack that was between my father and me. That's gone. So that's my prayer for you as you write and write toward hard places and difficult people in your life, that there will be some healing.